Paul Barron and the Kwok brothers get together to discuss Ripple and XRP Alpha. So many things dropped in this interview. I'm going to go through it and give you my context. Additionally, we have a ton of other Ripple and XRP updates floating around X right now, things that you have to know if you are an XRP holder. Guys, if you keep coming back for more content and you're not subscribed, thinking about doing that, I really appreciate it. And if you get any value out of this content, please hit like and leave a comment. Let's jump right into it.
What's Ripple trying to do here?
Well,
hit it, Dom.
Yeah, I mean, I think, at a high level, I think, Ripple really wants to have, the XRP ledger and sort of, its tentacles really on the whole financial infrastructure that powers the world. So obviously, Hidden Road on the brokerage side, the Treasury just now on the Treasury side, Rail as well on the stablecoin side. And I think, once you start to see all of those different pieces come together, that's really where you're going to start to see sort of, the power of what they've been building over.
Ripple is still missing a few pieces to be able to compete with JP Morgan. I have those pieces. I'm going to share them to you right after this clip.
Last many years. So I think that's really the goal, it's to make sure that no matter which bit of the financial infrastructure someone is interfacing with, they are ultimately, indirectly, even if they don't know it, touching, an aspect of Ripple's tech. And I think, you see that as well with many of the other companies that have really sort of, taken off in the tech space. A great example is Facebook, which is now obviously called Meta. They bought Instagram, then they bought WhatsApp. And then they bought, all these other different companies. And, when you're interacting with Facebook and you think of Meta, many people don't know that, there are actually a whole host of other companies underneath them, like WhatsApp and Instagram. And, these are standalone companies that were then rolled up and actually became much more valuable once they all came together. So I think that's really sort of the high level structure of happening. And ultimately, there's a ton more that maybe Phil wants to touch on as well.
Do you think, Phil, that this plays into a long-term strategy, or do you feel like these are just opportunities that are coming across Ripple's desk and they're like saying, hey, we cannot not buy this company?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I don't want to say anything that's not, public yet, but I think if you, from the outside, if you look at Ripple's approach, it's always been different to the traditional sort of, well, I'd say traditional, but the prevailing cypherpunk sort of approach. If you look at the different strands that crypto really started off from, that was Bitcoin, right? Which I'd say is more in the cypherpunk tradition. The first post that Jed McCaleb made on Bitcoin Talk was about XRP as a better alternative to Bitcoin, right? It was just his idea. And then the whole ethos behind Ripple and where it came from was, look, we need to build on what's come before, right? We're not going to build this all just from nothing. We've got to work with the existing financial system. And if you see what Cas Laurens talks about as well, he always talks about how there has never been a big technological shift which hasn't built on what's come before. And I think that what you see happening with Ripple is really in that ethos. It's in the ethos that, look, we're going to build on what's happened before. We're going to work together with institutions. And Ripple has been executing that playbook over the past decade.
Really quickly, if you're not understanding fully what he's saying here is Ripple understands that they have to work with existing infrastructure if they're going to connect it with what they've built out, which is the new infrastructure. And so Ripple has been strategically understanding the pieces that they need to acquire to roll their technology in to connect the legacy systems with their new technology. And if you don't think Ripple has a team looking at acquisitions right now, a full team of really bright, smart, young, beautiful-minded people, you probably are not paying attention to Ripple's overall strategy here, right? Because they are strategically going through and picking up the pieces they need to compete with your JP Morgans of the world. And I'm going to show you that information in just a second. Let's have him finish his final clip here, but that's what he's talking about.
It's been to work with banks rather than to actually try and say, look, we're going to completely put banks aside, we're going to put them out of business, which has been what other parts of DeFi have done, right? It's going to be like, we'll kill JP Morgan, whereas Ripple has more been, look, we're going to work together with banking institutions, we're going to work together with all these different financial institutions. And so I think that what you're starting to see right now, and what we can, talk to publicly, is what you're seeing is just this strategy really coming into the fore. And you're starting to see Ripple make big moves to actually capture that and cement what it's been building over the past decade.
All right, so what pieces of the puzzle are Ripple missing? Let me just show you who they've acquired. If you're just catching up to this information, if you're just getting into the XRP space and you don't have this information, this is going to be a really good catch up for you. So for custody, they bought a company called Medico in 2023. This has allowed them to roll out Ripple Custody. Medico and Ripple Custody are two different companies attacking the very same thing here. You have regulated trust entity, Fortress Trust. You have tokenized infrastructure, Standard Custody. Rail was the recent stablecoin business-to-business stablecoin company Ripple just purchased for $200 million. Rail controls 10% of global business-to-business stablecoin payments. This is only going to grow over time. I do think that Ripple will look to pick up another piece of the stablecoin infrastructure. You also have the prime broker Ripple bought for $1.25 billion. That's Hidden Road, multi-asset prime broker for liquidity, repo, and collateral management. The repo market is anywhere from $2 to $8 trillion a day, so a lot of value moves through it. And then, of course, G Treasury connected with 1,000 corporate clients and 13,000 financial institutions. My God, it is getting pretty serious. Now, what are the pieces that we are missing here? Now, the first piece Ripple needs is their banking license. They applied for that at the end of July, I believe. Usually it's about 120 days on the very shortest time frame. Usually it could take up to 9 months, but there are people on X that believe that we should get an answer on their banking license from the OCC any week now. Now, the second piece they're going to need here is a securities exchange or an alternative trading system. Something like buying or launching an ATS or DEX with regulatory approval would let them host trading of tokenized bonds, equities, and repos integrated right into the XRP ledger. So please understand that Ripple is probably looking to pick up some type of ATS system. Also, a Stripe or a WorldPay, something like a payment processor or merchant network. Ripple could look to acquire this. I do think we would need to be a little further down the road. Some of these companies are, $20 billion, $60 billion. And so Ripple currently in its current stance couldn't afford to pay that right now. But if XRP's price goes to $20, $30, $50, Ripple would have more than enough money to make moves like that. Credit lending and asset management division with prime brokerage now secured with Hidden Road. Ripple could move next into the credit markets, acquiring a digital lending firm or asset manager to manage tokenized treasuries. And of course, one of Ripple's staples here has been compliance and identity infrastructure. We have seen a lot of countries moving towards digital IDs. Ripple wants to have solutions for those countries or financial institutions to be able to go into KYC, AML, and all of these different compliance features that banks need every single day. And Ripple will look to pick up these last 5 pieces of the infrastructure, and then they will go compete with the JP Morgans of the world. Now, Wrath Economy did post this great thread here on Evernorth. I want to just break some of this down for you and show you here. Here's the investor presentation for Evernorth. It clarifies some of the things. I haven't clipped all of them, but here's most. Take a look here. 6 and 9 is what he's saying. But here, one of this is the thesis, XRP investment, the value proposition, and committed capital. I'm not going to read every single thing here to you because we want to make this a pretty steady and flow video. But if you want to pause it and go through all of these different things, please do. I have covered all of these in the previous day's content. Now, here is the leadership team and who's going to be running things. You have Ashish Birla, you have Matthew Sagar here, Jessica Jonas, and Meg Nakamura, and their companies that they are coming from are pretty incredible. Some come from Ripple, some come from Bank of America, Gemini, American Express, IBM. Here are some really important people, the board of directors, and of course the strategic advisors. You have David Schwartz and Brad Garlinghouse. Here's the meaningful catalyst for accelerated growth in the XRP ecosystem. You have Zoni, QX, you have ArcX, Meld, Axiology, and Open Eden are 2 big pieces here. Open Eden is doing tokenized treasuries. You are seeing that starting to grow. You're also having BlackRock, Ondo, and Ripple working in the tokenized treasury space as well. You also have Palisade here. And of course, we just did talk about Ondo. It talks about differentiated asset treasury. Love to see the picture at play here. XRP growth, superior scaled investment vehicle, table set for international expansion, and of course, the only scaled public company providing pure play XRP exposure. And then of course, this is comparison with other ETFs, price tracking, yield generation, ability to leverage capital markets, governance, legacy and liability, custody and taxes. As you can see, Evernorth hits every single box. There was some more information about corporate strategy here, accumulate more XRP, international expansion, and diversified yield generation. Going down here, connecting traditional finance and the decentralized finance. In traditional finance, you have treasury management, cross-border payments, collateral, lending, and liquidity managed. XRP is the bridge in the middle connecting decentralized finance over here with stable coins, reserve currencies, decentralized exchanges, real world assets, and lending protocols. The XRP army is on here as well. No, ladies and gentlemen, we didn't make it, even though our view count is a little bit better than a lot of these here. We still didn't make it on the presentation. All good. Maybe one day we will be good enough. We will keep trying until we are able to be highlighted by some of these institutions like Ripple. But I appreciate everybody's support on the channel. I was a little bummed to see some of these, right? Like 4 million views, 18 million views, 28 million views. We have done almost 30 million views in 2025 alone on the channel. So just sad to see it, but all good here. We're going to keep growing. We're going to keep doing everything that we can to bring you all the latest and greatest XRP news. Ripple's first 300 million is in kind. XRP is their additional 200 million close in cash, most likely. So Ripple is going to be putting some XRP and some cash into this company, making it what it is. And also there's going to be additional investment into this. All right, let's switch gears a little here. The Federal Reserve looks into payment accounts that would grant crypto and fintech companies access to Fed payment rails. I just did a video. If you're watching this video on Wednesday, go look for the other video I made today. It goes into all of this. I have some great videos from this Fed panel that they just had talking about, excuse me, I was gonna say XRP is the future, but talking about blockchain tokenization, DLT is the future here in America of rails. And of course, you do have Ripple and XRP now going to be able to directly connected into Fed payment rails. I do have a thought here that FedNow is not a blockchain system. FedNow took 4 to 6 years to develop after they figured out what they wanted to build. So if the Trump administration wanted to move this forward a lot faster, they would need to go to a private company. The only private company that has connections all over the world right now would be Ripple and XRP. They're connected in Japan, the UK, all over Africa, the Middle East, South America, Mexico, Canada, Australia, any country. They cover 90% of S markets. You also have the US, the UK transatlantic partnership talking about blockchain technology. Ripple was in that meeting with some of the biggest financial institution giants in the world. You start to put all these pieces together. It does look like Ripple is going to have a seat at the table one way or another. Ripple buys a traditional treasury management company that has access to crypto. And now the Federal Reserve announces that they will be allowing certain companies to integrate their payment rails with crypto. Exactly what we were just talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Ripple is going to be the solution for the future here. And then Ripple provides the solution that the Federal Reserve needs. Here it is. Ripple argues that Ripple provides the solution that the Federal Reserve calls for, offering a more efficient and secure way to send money across borders than traditional systems. The reason I think it's Ripple here, guys, is because all of these other countries, they are going to need to trust the system that the US is going to be using. I thought that Ripple could gift a version of RippleNet to the US government to use as their new payment system. That is what I believe in my heart. I could be wrong here. Obviously, I'm taking a stab at just the things that I'm looking at, but it starts to make sense in my head, but who knows, man? I can be a little, I don't know. The Federal Reserve can integrate with Ripple. We showed a lot about this already, showed you this already. There is a lot of FUD being spread around X right now, trying to attack Cas Laurens, trying to attack Ripple and XRP. Bill Morgan here comes to the defense here. Too stupid to check the facts. Nothing was dumped on retail. So Cas Laurens moved some XRP into Evernorth to support it. And a Bitcoin maximalist is saying that Cas Laurens is dumping more XRP, which is not actually true in this instance. Yes, Cas Laurens has sold XRP and he's continued to do that over the last 10 years, but this is not a good example of that. And so, I like Bill Morgan. He's a little peppy. We have our differences. Anyways, remember JP Morgan identified Ripple and XRP as the most appealing digital asset for financial institutions, an exclusive document prepared for Sberbank of Russia. So there is some connections. I'll be doing a video on BRICS countries, including Russia and XRP. Look out for that. And of course, I wanted to play this last clip here. XRP will eat from Wall Street.
Current crypto, it's a quite sort of on two sides. One side, on the small altcoins, for them, surviving is already super tough. because it's very difficult to get liquidity, difficult to get users, and difficult to get VC money. On the other side, it's like this crypto Max 7, Bitcoin, ETH, and Solana XRP. They constantly got this Wall Street money for DAT and all the things. So that's why if we look at the overall market cap, right, it doesn't change much because Bitcoin and ETH, their sort of ratio much higher, but the small ones become lower and lower. So I just feel like after this, it takes a long time for these kind of small businesses to recover for the next few months or next 1 or 2 years. But for the big tickers or the major coins, I think they will eat well from the Wall Street and also the big institutions.
Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP are the big four institutions are looking to partner with, adopt, buy off the open market, hold for institutional use cases down the line. These assets are going to grow exponentially over time. You notice that BNB isn't mentioned too much. I found that pretty interesting. Listen, guys, if you found value in this content, please like. You could share with a friend. I'd really appreciate that. The channel is growing. Thanks to all of your support. I love you guys so much. I hope you have a fantastic week ahead. We do live stream on Tuesdays and Fridays. If you want to support the channel, for the membership has a $10 and $20 membership. If you do, we do give you some additional content, research, and videos there if here on YouTube. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. I'm Crypto Sensei. Aloha.